At that point, I already missed 2 interviews. And I was just like crying in front of the office where everyone just passed by. In the middle of his introduction, fire alarm went off. Oh, hello everybody. Hi everybody, welcome back to my video. My name is Diana, and today I'm going to talk about Google interview nightmare story, or Google nightmare interview story? Nightmare Google interview story? Google nightmare interview story. Disclaimer, this video does not reflect the Google's interview process, but rather a series of unfortunate events that happened on that day that led to a catastrophe. Traumatic experience for myself. So yeah, here we go. The story begins during my university year. As some of you may already know, I went to university in Toronto, Canada, and there used to be a mobile phone service provider called Wind Mobile that was notorious for their spotty services. My university happened to be in that spotty zones, and I used to live on residence, so I missed calls all the time. At that point, I already missed 2 interviews with Evernote and Quora. They will just lead directly to the missed calls, and I would never get phone calls. Obviously, when Google reached out to me to schedule a phone interview, I was like, I'm not trusting my own phone for my phone interview. Like, sounds ridiculous, but like back then it was the best I could do. But I live on residence, what am I gonna do? So instead, what I did was I reached out to my university. Hey, can I use one of your landlines? Because, you know, landline is the only thing that you can trust. And so they did. They were very supportive. They were like,
we do have this academic advising / interview rooms, and you can use one of them for your interview.
Yes. And they gave me, so there were like 6 rooms, and they gave me the number 6. The room number 6. And each room had its own phone. And they all have different numbers, obviously. When Google reached out to me asking for like what phone number to reach me, I got the phone number of that particular room, and I like, hey, you can call me at this number. And just to remind you, this was my 2nd year in university, so this was one of my first technical interview. So I did a lot of research on that week, and a lot of the Reddit posts have told me to use headphones because you have to use both hands for typing and coding. So a day before the interview, I went back to the office and I was like, hey, can I test my headphones with the phone? So just make sure everything works perfectly. And they were like,
yeah, sure, go ahead. The room is empty. It's all yours.
So I did. I went in and I lift up the phone. I unplugged the phone headset and I look at the back, and there's no plug for headphones. Like, you know, those 3.5mm. It turned out all the office phones happen to be this advanced telephone that only supports USB typed headphones. And at that point, the office was closing. So I started panicking. I was like, where am I gonna get this USB typed headset? And again, I lived on residence. But luckily, one of my friends used to work at IT department, so he was like, hey, I happen to have this USB type headset, so you can borrow it. And I was like, great. Oh. Everything seemed fine up until that point. And the story really began on the day of interview. So I was fully ready for this interview, right? And on the day of, I still remember, my interview was back to back. From 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time, so that would be 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Western time. I went to the office with my boyfriend back then for mental support at 2:30, 30 minutes before the interview, just to make sure that this headset, this new USB based headphones work. And I went to the front desk and I was like, hey, my name is Diana and I have a room booked at 3 p.m. for my interview. Is the room available? The receptionist told me,
yeah, sure, let me check. And it was like, oh, sorry, seems like the room is occupied at the moment with the academic integrity meeting, but it should be done before 3.
And the receptionist told me to have a seat and wait. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I sat down, but 2:40, I'm still waiting. 2:45, still waiting. 2:50, still waiting. 2:55 and still waiting. And at that point I was getting so anxious and I was on the verge of tears and was like, what am I gonna do? And 2:58, I'm still waiting. At this point I was just like crying and like in front of the office where everyone just passed by. I'm like around like 2-3 minutes after 3 p.m. the meeting was finally done. So I went in the room, I unplugged the headset and I plugged my USB headset and I don't hear anything. Like, you know, when you pick up your phone, you hear like do, 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 do. I hear nothing. So I'm like hyperventilating at this point. John was like, it's okay. Just do it on speakerphone. And I was like, okay, that's better than nothing, right? And luckily, the interviewer called me around at 3 or 5-ish. So I had 3 minutes just to, you know, calm down a little bit. But still tears all over my face, still sobbing, still hyperventilating. And he started his introduction.
Hey, my name is John Smith. Sorry for being late. I was running late from a meeting. And I work for XYZ team from Google and blah, blah, blah.
In the middle of his introduction, the fire alarm went off. I completely forgot this was December in the middle of final exam season and, you know, people pull down fire alarms to... People don't pull fire alarms. For some reason, my interviewer can't hear the fire alarm going on in the background and he just kept introducing himself and, you know, the fire alarm was just banging in the background like, ow, ow, ow. And at that point, I don't know what to do. My brain is just blank. Everything is gone. Like, I don't know what to do. I was panicking. I was hyperventilating. So I was sitting there and then John was like, Tina, I think you should leave. Like, we should leave. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do. And at one point, the advisors came in and was like, Diana, you gotta leave. Like, you can't stay legally. So I literally was like, hey, John, by the way, the fire alarm went off, so I have to evacuate. Bye. And I hung up. I don't know what to do. Like, I can't obviously leave this guy on the phone while I was evacuating. So I just literally told him what I had to tell and then I left. So we evacuated outside of the building. We're just standing, waiting for the fire trucks to show up. And I was just like, what do I do, John? Like, I was sobbing. I was a mess. And John was like, why don't you just message the recruiter? Just let them know, like, what happened and then let them reschedule it. So I was like, oh, yeah, good. I pulled out my phone and, like, I wrote some really short emails. I'll show you here. I was like, hey, fire alarm went off and I wasn't able to do the interview. Can I reschedule it? And 10 minutes later, the recruiter replied me back and they're like, yeah, we can reschedule it. Don't worry about it. The interviewer was running late anyway. So I was like, okay, thank you. But they rescheduled it at 5 o'clock. So right after the second. So like, honestly, thinking back, I should have rescheduled it to another day, but like it's better than a missing one. So I was like, okay, I'll go with that. Firefighters finally showed up. They went inside the building and I kept asking the office people, I'm just like, hey, when do you think we'll be able to go back inside? Do you think I'll be able to do my interview at 4 p.m? And they're just like, Diana, we don't know. Like, we have no clues. We have to wait until firefighters cleared us. You know, it's just legally, we can't go inside. So I was like, oh my God. And 3:55 p.m-ish, they came out and they were like, hey, everyone, it's good to go back. So fortunately, I went back and I was like, okay, now I need to get ready for the second interview. So, you know, after crying a lot, your brain feels very hazy, foggy. Your like scalp is tingly. I was in that state. I was nowhere near to actually conduct any technical interview, but I had to. So the second interviewer called and she introduced herself. She's like, hi, my name is Jane Doe. I work for XYZ team in Google. None of that registered in my brain. I don't even remember her name anymore. Like, I don't even remember what team she was from. Like, I don't remember any of that interview. And she even asked me this, like, a technical question. I had to, like, ask her multiple times, like, to understand what the question was even about. Like, I don't even remember what the question was exactly, but it was something about, like, recursions. And I just couldn't. I couldn't code. Like, I wasn't able to. So that was the end of the second interview. In that moment, it felt such an easy problem. And I knew I would be able to do it, but like I wasn't able to do it. So that really brought down my confidence. And I heard that in Google, like they give you one easy question, they give you a little bit more difficult so they can like see how you do. I wasn't even able to finish the first part. and I was crying even harder. And consequently, I bombed the third one. I think I did better than the second one, but I still messed up the third one. Yeah, I bombed all 3 interviews. Wow. So that was the end of the interview. I bombed all 3 of them. I knew I bombed it. So I had no hope. John tried so hard. John was like, oh no, you still did well. And I'm just like, I knew I bombed it, John. Like, there's no way they're gonna call me back for on-site. And a week later, Google called me back. And for some reason, my phone was able to pick this call up. And I was on the phone and they're just like, yeah, sorry, we decided not to proceed with the next step and things like that. And I was like, oh yeah, it's okay, I knew it. And the guy was like,
oh, you knew it? How did you know it?
oh, like the fire alarm went off during my interview and things happened. And then he's like, okay, I understand. Hopefully the next one is better. And I'm just like, me too. That was the end of my Google interview story. And obviously this is such a traumatic experience. Like I can feel it like beating very fast. And every time someone mentions like Google interview, I don't think I'll ever be able to go back to Google and do another interview because this is a very traumatic experience. But yeah, like I feel like our society tend to focus more on success rather than like the failures. So I really wanted to share my interview failure story. Like it's okay, like all the questions I got on the day, like lead code medium, like almost like lead code easy. And I bombed both of them, you know, like I wasn't able to properly answer. On that note, like it is okay to fail miserably. The next opportunities will come. And like look at me, I got a job at Amazon. You know, these technical interviews, they can be quite challenging and difficult. They're almost like hit or miss. You either do really well or you bomb from head to tail. Like my Google interview experience. To be honest, after failing that Google interview, I felt like all the confidence in my body drained out of me. I feel like I'll never get a job, I'll never succeed in any technical interviews in the future, I will never be good enough for anything. And honestly, I want to say something motivational like, oh, keep trying, but yes, keep trying. If you actually interview 100 times, you'll get at least 1 offer. Okay, that was really bad. I shouldn't end it like that. I really hope you enjoy my Google interview nightmare story. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe and like. Or don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.
I don't know why you rescheduled it. You should have just told them to call you another day and given them another number.